We had rain this morning. We're going to talk about a different way to make it rain. Rain down some cash.
Michael, how are you?
Good morning. Sterling Financial Advisor Dan Ohlweiler, thanks for joining us.
I was just talking to a lady as I was coming up to the studio, and we were talking about, hey, it's nice to have some rain. She says, yeah, I love the rain and listening to it, but I hate to drive in it. You know,
yeah, right?
And that's kind of what it is.
Yeah, I woke up to the sound of it on the roof this morning. I was like, oh, you know, and then I was like, oh, I got to go out in this.
Right, right. And I'm the same way. I think we need the rain, and it's good for everybody. But driving in it's not a fun thing.
No, not so fantastic. All right, let's talk about saving for a rainy day. And we got markets. We got an election year, and folks are a little concerned about their finances, right?
Well, everybody's always asking about what's going to happen to the stock market in an election year.
They're at record highs right now. It's like, so it's you know, what's the one in the adage of a stockbroker, never buy high, you know, so it's like, okay, so do I put my money there or should I be looking at other places?
Well, tell me what's going to happen, I'll tell you what to do. You know, people always want to know. As a kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing, I bought an extra little crystal ball for my office, and then people say, "What's the market going to do?" And I pick up
there and you say,
pick up the crystal ball, and it says it's not working right now. You know, it's tough. But this past year has kind of been a crazy one because, you know, I was thinking, hey, the end of 2022, the market wasn't looking good. Mm-hmm. You know, it didn't do a whole lot, and I was telling people, you know, you may want to set this one out.
There's a big inflation concern. Are we going to hit a recession?
And then it just goes crazy this year, and you're trying to explain that to people and say, you know, nobody can predict the market.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And then we always say, what happens in an election year? Usually, you know, they're trying to pump up the markets.
Right. So there's a lot of stability, and there's a little bit of a rise in an election year, right? We don't change things, don't change horses midstream, kind of feeling.
And the feds are saying, you know, we might have 3 or 4 pullbacks on interest rates, mm-hmm. and the markets are saying, nah, we need 6 or 8.
Right.
You know, and so if we only get 3 or 4 and the market are expecting 6 or 8, that's going to be a bad thing for the markets because they're going to react because that's mm-hmm. what they thought that, you know, the 8 to 6 or 6 to 8 would have been a good number. But, you know, with lowering of interest rates, that's always good for business.
Right.
Okay, it's good for markets. And so even if we get 3 or 4, that's still going to be a positive thing. I just don't know how high this market can go under the amount of money that we've spent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a ton that's been infused into the market.
We spent, you know, like $3 trillion in COVID relief mm-hmm. and giving money away, and so I just you know, I read some people, some bears are saying, yeah, we're going to have a big correction in 24. Mm-hmm. Other people are saying, hey, the market is looking good. If they lower interest rates, maybe we'll hit 40,000, you know, instead of 38,000. Well, you just don't know. And so with interest rates starting lower, that means people are going to be pulling back from CDs. Mm-hmm. If CDs drop to 3%, then you've got to kind of ask yourself, okay, what is it that I'm trying to do? Is I'm trying to protect my money or I'm trying to grow my money?
Yeah.
And so you've kind of got to balance that out in between all of them. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not one way is right and one way is wrong. You need to have some that take advantage of good markets and protection against bad markets.
Mm-hmm. And what do you tell folks who are again, we have this question, but it's an important one. What do you tell folks that are coming close to, it's like, I'm going to start drawing out. I'm not looking as far as new investments. I'm going to start taking that draw from there. How do they start to work those concepts out in these financial times?
Well, I always tell people as we get closer to retirement, you know, we go through the accumulation phase, mm-hmm. and then we probably should start moving into the protection phase. Mm-hmm. You know, we reallocating assets from growth to protection. And so you're not going to be taking as much risk. You're not buying the mm-hmm. Bitcoins or the, you know, the technology stocks that you did when you were trying to grow it at age 30 or 35. You have the time to ride these markets out. Mm-hmm. As we get into our spend down phase, what I call, you know, protection phase, then you probably need to pull back and do a little bit more protecting of the assets. If you can, if you can average 4 to 6% and have your money safe, that's probably a good thing. You know, they used to talk about a 4% spend down. You know, if you can get 4% on your money, spend 4% of your assets, you should be okay. Well, that depends upon how much money you have. You know, it's easy to do 4% if you've got 3 million. It's not as easy you can do 4% if you've got 500,000. And so it's all a personal thing. And in the market, I just don't understand the market right now. I just don't. You know, you've always got bears that are saying there's going to be a pullback. Well, they missed out on this year.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I mean, I myself missed out because I thought the market was going to be, and I went into CDs, okay, and for a year. Well, if I had been in the market and the market's up 20%, I missed out on 15% growth on my assets. Well, you've kind of got to get over the fact that, yeah, I missed out, but I still have my money. You know, it's next year's, what do I do?
Right.
Maybe I put my big toe back in the market and say, okay, you know, we'll put 50% back in the market or whatever it is.
Can what the government does in terms of stopgap spending measures and all those things, there's an uncertainty is where's the money going to go? How's the government going to be spending our money? Does that have an effect on the day-to-day investor?
Well, where the government, generally there's fiscal policy and then there's
we don't seem to have one.
Well, we don't have a fiscal policy.
It's all stopgap. So
yeah,
where do you look in terms of guidance from what the government, where we're spending our money and those kinds of things?
Well, obviously the current administration is trying to push climate change and those kind of things and pulling back on investments in fossil fuels and trying to go to electric cars and things like that.
Windmills and solar.
I mean, I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that generally an administration has a policy as how they want to funnel money. Obviously, this administration has funneled it towards climate change and those types of things.
And can companies in those industries be a more attractive investment for planners who are saying, hey, these guys are getting tax incentives?
I don't know. I've read about a lot of EV companies that have gone bankrupt.
Yeah,
there are battery companies that have gone bankrupt.
Right.
I think that they were happy to take our money, our government money, and try to develop this. But again, Ford has pulled back on the EVs that they're producing, their trucks and things like that. There's the unfortunate thing is you have to produce products that people want, not just because the government wants you to produce them. And the government kind of forced this issue on the automakers, and there wasn't enough demand for those vehicles, and now there's an abundance of them, and so, you know, it's interesting. Hertz, I think, is pulling back on all of their EV vehicles, and I've got an EV vehicle, so I'm not bad mouthing EV vehicles.
I think, like you're saying, there's a whole kind of lifespan for these things, and we haven't figured out the part where, okay, now we're retiring this vehicle or the secondary market with a car that has only half of a charge that it used to when it was sold.
Right.
How do we value those things, and how do you fix those problems, and where do we go in this? And I think that infrastructure isn't really in place to handle it from cradle to grave.
I also have a crazy 8-ball in my office, and you know, is the market going to go up? And you say, more than likely, or not this year, or something, you know, and
do you have Monopoly in the game of life? I might come over later today.
No, but I mean, it's just, you know, I had a client in last week, and he says, you know, I think I want to go into the fixed interest market rather than, and I said, okay, that's fine. You know, this year I myself lost out because I was in fixed interest. Okay. But I just don't know. Nobody knows. We can do a projection, but
so it's about diversification, being smart, putting things in the smart places, and a financial advisor can really kind of give that guidance.
And our diversification varies with our position in life.
Right.
You know, going through the growth phase of our portfolio or our accumulation phase, we want to be in a little bit more aggressive so we can go up and down. As we start to move towards retirement, you need to start switching that into the protection mode to where if there's a drop in the market, it's not going to impact your retirement. Right. You know, the problem that we have is we get greedy. Okay.
Yeah, people see an opportunity, they see those things, and so that's where I think you come in, Dan Waller from Sterling Financial Advisors, and make sure we're doing the right
Well,
things.
we try.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate you coming in.
Good to be here.
You're watching This Day. When we come back, we'll take a look at the Monday movie. Stay with us.